Okay, now we've got pagination set up on the API side of things, and hopefully you can see how easy this would be to use if you wanted to paginate other lists in our application. All we need to do is return a page list, and so long as we change the handler in the activities controller, or whatever controller it is, to handle a paged result, and then you just return a paged list and create a new paged list class from the list that you're returning, then you'll automatically have pagination going back from that particular list. So it's super easy to use by setting up what we've done in our application. But let's go and take a look at what we need to do on the client side for this. And I'll just close all of those, and what we'll do first of all, inside our client app, inside the models folder, inside the app, we'll create a new TypeScript file to deal with pagination. So we'll call it pagination.ts. And what we're going to do is create an interface for pagination first of all. So we'll create an interface and we'll call it pagination. And we'll just add the properties that we get back. So the current page is going to be a number. The items per page, again, will be a number. The total items, a number. And the total pages will also be a number. Now, to make it easy for us to deal with pagination from our client, we're going to get our items back just as we have been doing previously, but we're also going to want to get access to the pagination data that we get back inside the header. So what we'll do is we'll make a class, we'll say export class, and we'll call it paginated results, and we want to be able to use this for anything, so we'll give it a generic type parameter. And we'll say the data is the T, the type. And we'll say pagination is a type of pagination. And because this is a class, we need to give this some initial values. So what we'll do is we'll create a constructor. And we'll say data of type T and pagination of type pagination. And inside our constructor, we'll just say list.data equals data and list.pagination equals pagination. So when we create a new instance of this class, we just need to pass it the data and the pagination, and then we'll have a paginated result of type, whatever it is. In our case, it's going to be an activity array inside our paginated results that is the data that we're going to be using. Now we need a way to go and get the paginated data, the properties that we're sending back in our header. Now Axios provides us with a great way to interrogate a response and then do something based on that response. So what we'll do is we'll open up our agent.ts file, and let's go up to our interceptor, and we want to use the one where we're getting the response. Now our response is going to contain a pagination header. So what we'll do is after the call to sleep, we'll say const pagination equals, and we'll say response.headers, and we'll use the square brackets for the object property accessor, and we're going to look for a property called pagination. And if we do have something in pagination, then what we'll do is we'll say response.data equals new pagination or new paginated result, and we'll pass in the response.data as the data, and then we're going to pass our pagination into the pagination object rather than keeping it as a JSON serialized string. So we'll say json.pass, and we'll pass in pagination. And then we're going to return the response. And in order to get type safety, we're going to say as Axios response, and we're going to say paginated results of type any. And when I say type safety, I mean IntelliSense, I should say, because when we use this response, it's going to recognize our data is of type whatever, but it's also going to give us our pagination IntelliSense as well. And if we don't have a pagination header, that means it's just a normal response, and we're just going to return the response if we don't have this. So what we also need to do is come down to the list request inside our activities and just update the type that we're going to get back from this. So instead of just an activity array, what we're going to get back is a paginated result of type. activity array. And then we can head over to our activity store. And what we want to do in here is we want to create a new property inside this store. And we'll scroll up, and what we'll do is we'll say pagination as a new property, and this is going to be a type of pagination that we're going to store inside our MobX store, and it can also be null, and we'll give it an initial value of null. And we've got some errors in here based on what we've done in our agent file, so we'll just scroll down to the load activities method. And our activities is not just a type of activities anymore, because if we look at what we're returning a paginated result of type activity array. So what we'll do is we'll say, instead of activities, we'll just say result, and then we'll say result.data, and then the data is going to be a type of activity array, and the errors go away. But what we also want to do is set the pagination when we do load our activities, and what we'll do is we'll just create a helper method to set pagination, and we'll take in pagination of type pagination, and we'll just say this.pagination equals pagination. And then after we have our activities back, inside our result is not just the data, but also the pagination now. So what we can do is say this.setPagination, and we can pass in the results.pagination. And I'm getting a surprising error here. It tells us that type pagination is missing the following properties: context, set state, force update, render, and 3 more. So it looks like I've got pagination brought in from the wrong place here, and yep, it's brought it in from Semantic UI React. We don't want that one, we want the one that comes from our models. So we want import pagination from models pagination. And that should make the error go away, and let's just take a look. And sure, that's more like it. Now we can use this as intended. So let's go and take a look at our application now, and we'll just go to our activities. So I'll just go back to the home page and go to activities. And we can see our activities in our list, but what this should be is just 10 activities. I know the final activity here should be future activity 8, but it only goes up to 7. So we know our pagination is working. And what we can do is further confirm this just by looking at the network tab and just refreshing the page. And what we should find is that in our activities request, inside the response headers, then we can see the pagination that we're getting back inside that header as well. Perfect. But what we also want to do, of course, is be able to pass up the parameters to our API. And we'll take a look at that next.